Hey everybody, BrickLover18 here today with another episode of Between the Bricks. Between the Bricks is essentially my behind-the-scenes storytime show here on YouTube. I'm basically just telling stories about my life, how I got started with Lego, and basically everything between the bricks that you might not see here on my YouTube channel in regular videos. One of the last Between the Bricks episodes I made was actually talking about the COVID-19 impact on my YouTube channel. Before I get forward with filming this video, I just want to thank everybody so much for the love and support on that video. Not only did I receive a lot of really kind comments and, motivating comments, I also received a lot of emails about people, telling me about their struggles, offering advice for how to grow my YouTube channel, telling me I'm not alone. And I wanted to get on here and say, I try to respond to every single one of those comments, but it really, really touched my heart. I was really appreciative of everybody who took the time to send me a message, to write a comment, to send me an email, and I just thought it was awesome. So thank you so much for all that love and support. I do appreciate it. Today's episode of Between the Bricks is also a special one because today I'm going to be telling you about the journey of getting my office space here. I've talked about my office a lot. You know I have it. You know you've seen tours of it. Today's not going to be a tour. Today's going to be behind the scenes leading up to when I got that space on May 1st, 2019. It's now been 2 years. It's May 2021. So it's been a great 2 years here, but I've shown a lot. But I want to talk about that behind the scenes before because it was something that was kept completely confidential. I didn't share it on YouTube or anything until the lease was signed and my move had pretty much already begun. I would say my hunt for this office really started back in January of 2019. I began kind of looking on, Facebook and Kijiji and all those different sites trying to find an office. I'd kind of made up my mind that I really wanted to bring my Lego collection to Toronto. I was going back and forth on the train a lot to do Lego and I really, quite frankly, missed it. I missed the hobby, I missed doing YouTube, I missed building, it was a lot, and I'm like, okay, I really want Lego. I'm gonna have time in Toronto to do Lego. And I was like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity. By this time, it's like February 2019. And I was like, okay, I do want to move my Lego collection. I dreamed about it, I've made it up, and I'm like, wow, it would be the coolest thing. So essentially, I knew I had one last thing to do. I had, the desire to move my Lego collection. I had the capital to move it because of my YouTube, and I knew it was going to be sustainable. I had to convince my parents. I didn't know how they were going to take it, so I started kind of dropping hints to them that I wanted to start moving my Lego to Toronto and I wanted to get an office here. I dropped hints there and there. I was like, wow, it'd be really cool to get a space in Toronto. It'd be so cool to do this. I want to start a store, all this kind of stuff. They were like, yeah, okay, Brad, keep talking. It's great. They didn't weren't super receptive, but also weren't absolutely not. In February, when I went home for reading week, I was like, okay, I want this Lego space. So I did what I always used to do as a kid when I wanted something. I made a slideshow. I basically made a slideshow for my parents of why I wanted to move my Lego collection to Toronto. I proved to them that I had the money to do so because I knew that's what they were really going to care about. I kind of talked to them about my business model for my YouTube channel and some of the other ways that I was going to use this space to monetize it so I could get money back in return and pay for the rent. And I wanted them to be on board. I also included a bunch of different sample properties that I found. This space that I'm in right here, funny enough, was actually the very first space I found that I liked. I obviously looked at a bunch of others, but this is the first one that I found that I loved and thought would really fit my hobby. The price was right. The square footage seemed good. I loved the fact that it was 2 rooms. It was right on the subway line. There was a whole bunch of things that were okay, this makes the perfect space. I think this is the one that's it. Of course, anytime you're doing a lease though, you can't just choose the first one. You've got to keep looking for multiple others, do lots of research, go visit and stuff like that. So when I made the slideshow for my parents, which I'm going to try and find and kind of walk you through what I was thinking for each slide, I presented everything to them, and surprisingly at the end of the slideshow, they were kind of on board with it. They didn't think it was the worst idea. They didn't obviously think it was the best idea, but they understood where I was coming from. They understood how important the Lego hobby was to me. And I think deep down, they were also really excited to get their bedroom back. So that kind of, once I got their, seal of approval, and they made it clear that they weren't going to help support this building and this lease financially, they're always been supportive of the hobby, and they continue to be supportive of the hobby, but they're like, we're not paying your rent for you. So once they, made that clear, they were like, you can start looking. And that's when I really ramped it up. I came back to Toronto after that week of being home in the middle of February. I began going to multiple different showings. I was contacting people left, right, and center, touring places. I had a whole spreadsheet of everything that I needed. Like, what was the space like? What was security like? What was the price like? What could I get internet? Like, everything you could imagine was going into this. I toured multiple different spaces. Some were brutal. I went to one space that was like super. First off, it was like 40 minutes on a streetcar, which a streetcar is always get backed up if you're in Toronto. Like the subways every once in a while would. Streetcars are never on time. It was 40 minutes by streetcar, which is a really long commute time. And then I get there and the place was in a basement. It was really poor lighting. It was like gray walls, but they were supposed to be white. It felt like a basement, and I was like, okay, maybe I can make this work because it's a little bit cheaper than this place here. And the guy was like, yeah. Just the only thing is, like, you'll have a lot of stuff, I'm assuming. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, yeah. The only thing is, there was a bathroom on this unit. He goes, that's the only bathroom for this entire like basement. So you just gotta make sure there's always a path to it. And I was like, you want me to leave my Lego collection open? So knew that space done. I never went back there. That was like a shared artist space. I went to a few others that were just really small for the price. I toured some offices like right downtown that I could walk to and stuff like that from my house. And they were like, here, they're $1,400 for 100 square feet. You get a desk and a chair. And I was like, okay, I don't even need a desk and a chair. I need a city table and like a bunch of bookshelves. So I toured a lot. I always kept my parents up to date. The one day I toured a couple spaces this day. This was the last space of the day I toured. I took the subway there. I came to the building. I was surprised. I was like, this is a nice area of Toronto I've never been in before. I went to the building. I called the concierge and I was like, hey, I'm here to tour the space. They brought me up and I walked in here and I just like knew it was the place. I knew that this was the place I wanted to be in. I knew this is the place I wanted to make my Lego collection home to. He left me alone here, was like, just lock up when you're done and leave your keys on the way out. I like toured the space. I looked around and I was like, I'm visualizing. I'm like, okay, I can see actually, I thought my city was going to go here. I was like, I can see my city going here. I can see my building being done here. I can see the other side of my place being a whole studio, like this whole thing. And I'm like, okay, this is the place. I commuted home. I timed it. It was like 21 minutes from door to door. As soon as I got home, I called my dad and I was like, this is the best place. I love this place. This is the one. I toured a bunch of others. Like, this is definitely the one I want to go to. This is the one I want to move to. It's got an elevator. I toured one place that was on the fourth floor that had, so fourth floor, no elevator in the building. So 4 floors is a pretty substantial amount of stairs to do on a regular basis, let alone, God forbid, moving my entire collection up 4 flights of stairs. It was like in a venue hall. It was like the weirdest space, and I get up in the 4 flights of stairs, and the pictures were nothing like the unit was. It has sloped ceiling. But like, yeah, those are just some of the horror stories. I can talk to you about all the horror stories of spaces because my budget obviously was pretty low. So I had to be a little cautious of where I was going. I couldn't afford those office buildings. So I was going, studio spaces. And it's not like New York City where there's like huge studio spaces everywhere. No, we don't really have that in Toronto. So I finally found this place. Like I said, I called my dad. I was like, this is the place. And he goes, I want to know a little bit more. We need to see like terms. We need to see conditions. And that's really where the process started. I emailed back right away and I was like, I'm interested in this space. I want it. Like, I was like, I need to snatch it up. They were like, yeah, we can start renting whenever. And I was like, okay, well, I want it like May 1st. I didn't want it any really earlier than that. I basically spent all of March and all of April negotiating the price, negotiating the terms of the space, and just getting everything all lined up. It was a long process. I was working with real estate agents, working with lawyers, working with my parents, working with the rental office, working with building managers, property managers. There was a lot of people. It was so much back and forth, always emailing on my phone. They would send me a lease. I'd be like, no, that's not the price we agreed on. I'd send it back. It was a lot. It took 2 full months to finally get this space. And then finally, I secured the space in late April. I gave them the deposit. They gave me the keys. And the space was officially mine. I moved up here May 1st. Before I actually moved up here, I hung out here a few times actually. I think I built a Lego set on the floor once. Like, I was just so excited to have the space. At this time, I was also working at the Lego store when this was going down, which also kind of screwed up my plans a little because part of the reason I was like, I need a space was because I wanted to do my Bricklink store. And then I started working at the Lego store, and having a Bricklink store, we're all working at Lego is a big no-no. You'll get fired for it. So I basically had to scrap my Bricklink store plans, and it was funny because I was making videos, and I was saying like, oh, I'm gonna have a Lego store here, like a bricklink store. And then a few months later, I got hired at the Lego store, and then like my manager was watching those videos, and she goes, "You were gonna have a bricklink store." I was like, "Yeah, but I don't, because don't worry, I work here." Like it was really funny. But yeah, no, like I secured this space, and I was started working at Lego, so I was buying Lego and bringing it here already. May 1st, when it came around, my dad and I spent the entire day, and we moved everything to Toronto. We did it all in one go. And then we dropped everything off here. This room was full of just stuff, and like that room was tables, this room was stuff. And then we had to go to IKEA, pick up like 8 of these bookshelves or 7 or whatever it was, of this table, chairs, like it was a mess. My dad, we dropped off, we had dinner, we got everything up here. He helped me like build like 1 or 2 bookshelves, and then he had to go back home because he wasn't staying the night. Like we did the entire move in one day. And basically I was here in Toronto. I would say probably the hardest part that I actually no, it wasn't. The part that I thought would be the hardest part would be convincing my parents why I needed a YouTube studio, why I needed a space here in Toronto. The actual hardest part was just negotiating all the terms and finding a space. Like it wasn't even finding a space wasn't the hardest because I found this first. Like this was the space I knew I wanted, but I was basically looking at multiple others because I wanted options and I wanted to satisfy my parents who were like, you can't just go with the first one you see. I did, but I was really looking, and this space has proven time over time again to be a really good choice. So I'm really happy with that. But the biggest thing, of course, was just trying to secure the terms of the lease. Like they had one price here, I was here. We had to like find a middle grounds, meet in the middle. Um, I don't regret choosing this space. I think it's been awesome for helping me grow. I look at the videos from when I first moved in, and I had this entire wall. Well, you can't see it, but like the entire wall behind the camera used to be completely bare. Like it was a full walk space all the way back. Not anymore. It's like packed. I've expanded my Lego collection so much since I moved in here. Forever grateful for that. And overall, this is just a really good experience. It helped me a lot. It was definitely stressful to try and do during school because, like I said, when I was emailing building managers, property managers, lawyers, concierges, like real estate agents, like it was so much email, so much back and forth. My dad was helping me out. We were signing leases, negotiating terms. Like it was a whole thing. That's why it took 2 months, but it was a lot of fun. Finding the space was really rewarding. I know I get emails all the time. People are asking me like, "How did you find this space? How did you know it was the one?" I literally just found it on Kijiji, which is like America's Craigslist. I came and toured it. I toured multiple spaces. I made that spreadsheet, like I said, of all the pros and cons of each space. And at the end of the day, like as I said, this one was like the no-brainer, the space that I wanted to do because of its security, because of its safety, because of the space wise. It had parking, it's got a pool. It had a pool. That was a big thing. This building has a pool. My other building doesn't. So I've loved the pool ever since. It's got a gym, mail concierge, like security on site, mail room, everything that I needed basically was right here. So forever grateful for this space. The process of getting it was certainly very, very interesting and a lot of fun. It's been nostalgic looking back on these last 2 years because I've been able to do so much here, and it feels like it was yesterday that I was securing that space and making the slideshow for my parents to see. But it's been a really great journey, and I hope that gives you a little kind of behind the scenes of what my journey of getting that space was like and trying to convince my parents that I need it and just having a good time overall with everything and making memories here. But anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please let me know down in the comments below. This was a lot of fun to kind of talk about and go through memory lane and really, uh, really rehash what my YouTube space was like and this journey to get where I am today. So anyway, thanks again so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please let me know down in the comments. If you have any ideas for future Between the Bricks episodes or stories that you would like to hear, again, leave them down in the comments below. Alright everybody, this was fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here in the next episode with the next story time.